Hey, what is up guys, Joseph here for another entry of my top 10 series. This one's going to be doing my top 10 horror movies. Ooh. No. Okay, this list won't contain the scariest movies that you can watch on Halloween. This is just the most entertaining, most enjoyable to me. That being said, this list will not contain spoilers. I'll try to keep it spoiler free, so if I go off ramp, I'll try to warn y'all before I go into spoiler details. But yeah, that being said, my number 10, Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is probably the only found footage movie that I can think of that I've actually enjoyed. I'm not a real big fan of the found footage movies, and well, I'll take that back. There's Chronicle was another one that I watched, but it's not a horror movie. But Paranormal Activity is the only found footage horror movie that I've actually enjoyed and liked. Oh man, I didn't realize how hard this one will be keeping away from spoilers. It's basically a man and wife trapped in a house that is haunted by a demon that has some connection to the woman. That's really all I can say about the plot, without giving too much away. Yeah, it's not really the scariest movie, but it's got a few jump scares in there. But yeah, Paranormal Activity is my number 10. My number 9 is The Strangers. Strangers, I feel, is one of the most underrated movies of the last 10 years. Liv Tyler plays the wife of some guy. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. But they're a young, struggling couple that is basically on the verge of a divorce, that travel to an isolated vacation home that the guy owns, and during the night, 3 strangers terrorize the couple. Oh my god, the strangers alone make this movie terrifying. It's more of a realistic everyday horror than, you know, the demons and the Freddy Kruegers and the Michael Myers, that kind of thing. Basically 3 serial killers, like real life abduction. It's, God, this is terrifying, this movie. There's not much I can say about without ruining the whole thing for you. Just check it out. Trust me, you'll thank me later. So, Strangers, number 9. My number 8, You're Next. This movie took the horror cliches that every horror movie ever follows. The jock dies, the pretty girl that sleeps around dies, the black guy dies, the horror villain comes back to life, kills everybody. You're Next took advantage of those cliches, and you cannot predict what is going to happen. This was, it's technically more of like an action type of deal more than a horror, but it's still under the category. It still has some of the cliches, but not much where you know what's going to happen. Basically, a family reunites because there's some history that happened with them. Eat dinner, and there's a group of, I think, about 4 guys wearing goat masks going to kill the entire family. But the cliches turn that around, and you'll want to see it. Trust me, it's real good. My number 7 is the first on this list that actually legitimately terrified me. The Ring. Now, The Ring, if you have not seen it, I am not going to tell you the plot because that's going to ruin the entire thing. Just know that the movie has one of the most terrifying looking villains that I have ever seen. Samara. Oh man, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Well, I can basically, I'll leave it at this. You watch the tape, you got 7 days to share it, or you die. That's basically the movie. But trust me, there are some subplots that really terrified me. I'm not going to get into spoilers. Those who watch the movie know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, my number 7 is The Ring. My number 6, Saw. Now this movie, I loved the first one. Second one, third, fourth, fifth, I hated. But the first one is the one I'm talking about. The first one had, first of all, it had one of the most shocking twists of all movies. I'm not going to say what. Watch it, you'll find out. More of a, not really a in-your-face horror movie, but more like a psychological horror, I guess you would say. The trap. I'm pretty sure everybody who's ever even heard of the franchise Saw knows that basically there's these traps that people have to escape, these death traps that people have to escape. The traps in the first one, shocking. One word to describe them: the bear mask, the bear trap, or whatever it's called. Terrifying. Just thinking about that bear. Okay, my number 6, Saw. And now we're in the top 5. This part was real hard to position which movie I wanted my number 1, my number 2, whatever, so on and so forth. But that being said, my number 5 is the second of 3 movies on this list to scare the crap out of me, and that being Conjuring. Conjuring, holy crap. There's really 2 plots to Conjuring. The main plot is Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga play a couple that goes to do an exorcist on this family's house. And while they're doing that, there's the evil doll Annabelle in the couple's house. Like Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson's house, there's Annabelle, which got its own spin-off eventually, I think like 3 years later. The one scene with Annabelle and the rocking chair, those who watch the movie know what scene I'm talking about. I watched this movie in the theaters. That scene scared the living daylights out of me. Not exaggerating, I had... Whew, I swear, just thinking about these moments make me relive those. One of the most terrifying movies of the past 10 years, by far. My number 5 is Conjuring. My number 4 is a third movie, the final movie on this list, that scared me. Insidious. Now, with this movie, oh my god, it's another movie I saw in the theaters. There's one scene that involves a red-faced demon that basically shows up out of nowhere. Again, the people who watch the movie know what scene I'm talking about. That part scared me and some of my friends, and we're not the most gullible people in the world, and oh my god. Insidious is basically kind of like The Conjuring in the sense that, but instead it's not a house that's haunted in Insidious, it's the young boy. And the parents have to perform, well, not really, they don't have to perform, they get a priest in there and they do an exorcism and whatever. Oh man. Yeah, my number 4 is Insidious. Okay, and now we're out of those real scary movies, to me anyways. My number 3 is Psycho. Psycho influenced the TV show Bates Motel. Psycho started off slow, to me anyways, with Marion Crane, I believe is the character's name. Janet Lee is the actress's name. Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. And Marion Crane is a secretary, I believe, that steals money from her boss and goes on she runs away. And she eventually comes to Bates Motel, and one thing leads to another. Once Norman Bates shows up, I think it's like 30 minutes into the movie where Norman shows up, but once he shows up, the movie changes completely. There's the most famous scene, the shower scene, did not, before there was spoilers. I'm not gonna say it, don't worry. But yeah, there's a surprise about halfway through the movie. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, there's two surprises, one in the middle and then one at the end. But yeah, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock, 1960, I believe. It's my number 3. My number 2 is a movie that I was told was one of the scariest movies of all time by some people. I walked around, or not really walked around, figure speech. Went around school when, people ask what's the scariest movie you ever seen, and I said The Exorcist. Not even seen the movie before, just heard some people say that it was real scary. Watched it once I said it for the last time, and I realized that it's not real scary the way people were describing it. But still a good movie, still entertaining, still all that stuff. But basically, there's a girl, Reagan. I can't think of her last name. That messes with a Ouija board. She gets possessed by some demon. They call it a name, but don't really remember it. And the mom has to call a priest to perform an exorcism and so on and so forth. Real good, real entertaining, but it's not scary. As scary as I was told. But yeah, I still liked it, still enjoyed it. Exorcist number 2. And my number 1 favorite horror movie of all time that I've seen.